Greetings and salutations. My name is Schwahn and welcome to the channel. We have some more reaction content for you, and today we are checking out something very, 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 very old. Now, not that old, but old when it comes to the world of technology and the world of video games, and that is the international trailer for Final Fantasy XIII. Now, if you're like, wait, hold on, it's 2022. When did this trailer come out? It came out in January of 2010, which is also when, well, at least that's when this was uploaded to YouTube. I forget actually when Final Fantasy XIII came out. I want to say it came out in 2009, but that might have been the Japan release because we didn't always do those day one worldwide releases, right? Things would come out in Japan, and then somewhere between 6 months to a year later, we'd get them in the West. And that could mean just the United States, and then another 6 months to a year later, it found its way into the true international audience of like the EU and stuff like that. Now, why are we watching this? Few reasons. One, this is old, okay? And trailers are so different across the years. And I was told that this trailer is really, really good. I have played Final Fantasy XIII. Played it more than once, even, as crazy as that sounds. And I actually am intending to play it again in the very, very near future. So that's part of the reason that we're watching it, because I haven't seen this trailer. I'm going to be replaying through the game again to have a more modern view on it, because I remember playing it when it first came out, and I shared everyone's relative opinion of like, man, I feel like this game isn't as good as it should be. And then I replayed it, I want to say probably like 6 years ago, and I was like, I enjoyed the hell out of that. But I didn't really think about it from a critical position. And then today I want to replay it again and think about it from a more review critical standpoint and see how I feel about this going through those steps. Now, it also made me think that I don't even remember where I saw the initial trailers for Final Fantasy XIII. This game came out 12, 13 years ago, and YouTube is about that same age. And when it was first getting started, you didn't see things the way we do now with YouTube. There wasn't constantly video game trailers being put at the beginning of every video that you watched. There wasn't channels dedicated to it. It was such like a online open source America's Funniest Home Videos, and it was so early that people were just then beginning to think of how to carve out space. And the first ruminations of being a content creator that made YouTube videos was even the smallest smidgen of a thought. And so for the most part, we got these types of trailers from watching like Cartoon Network and stuff like that. And so your accessibility to trailers was so different from what it is today. And that's part of why I never remember seeing this trailer. I remember first seeing Final Fantasy XIII, I believe, in a Game Informer magazine that was mailed to me. And I'm pretty sure that was before they were owned by GameStop. Sometimes on other games, too. Yeah, absolutely. So it was such a different world back then than what it is today. And you might have just seen it at games. True. You used to go to GameStop and watch their stupid TV and be like, I'm just getting some news, guys. They don't put this on the TV. I don't get G4 at my house. No, that I have Dish Network, and you have to pay for their stupid extra package to get G4. Or it might have been a point in time when G4 didn't exist, or after they'd already shut down, because nobody actually remembers the time frame of that network. Okay, well, my neck's starting to hurt, so peace out. I like how you got smaller to show looking at the TV. It's important. Okay, but I'll stop blabbing, and we'll check out what has recently been heralded on Twitter as like, man, this trailer for Final Fantasy XIII fucking slaps. And I'm like, it does? It does. Okay, let's go. I plan on replaying it anyway, so show me. I also know there's DMCA in here, but we'll see what happens. Hold on.
You will.
Let me make sure that, yeah, get that crisp 720p.
We will see her, right?
We'll see her again, and soon. You convinced me of that, so stay strong.
This game still looks better than so many freaking things today.
Don't worry. We'll finish this and go see her together.
Look. Branded by Pulse. I'm a Lassie. Enemy of Cocoon. danger to us all.
My parents died. I had to be strong for Sarah, so I thought I needed to forget my past. And I became Lightning. I thought that by changing my name, I could change who I was. Who are you?
I've got a few screws loose, but I'm a Lassie, same as you.
You must be Snow. Sid Raines, Brigadier General of the Fleet.
Your son's a hero. We'll erect a memorial in Eden and put his crystal on display.
If they find out you're sheltering Lassie, they'll...
You're my son. This is your home.
The point is, I have people I can count on. I'll make it through. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
The very existence of you, Lassie, puts every last one of us in danger. Tell me, do you really think your life is worth more than the lives of millions of Cocoon citizens?
So this is the Foul Sea.
It's this thing's fault the purge started it. And it's people who are dying. Sarah told us to save Cocoon. That means this thing needs to die. You're not gonna go through this ordeal alone, you know.
That's what scares me. I don't want to see you get hurt because of me.
Let Cocoon get what's coming. Better that than watch a friend go seethe.
What happens when your actions end up ruining someone's life? How do you pay for what you've done?
Shoot me.
Don't you even! You think you die and everything will be sugar and rainbows?
What do you want from me?
I love
You
Saz.
saw the fools. A mindless mob drunk on fear of a viewless sea.
Was this the Cocoon you dreamed of?
My dream is but a foul sea's fancy now.
Let's move!
It is really long. It's also very beautiful, as you said.
Lady luck now?
Somebody help that man! You can also really see something that I never noticed before was the very heavy. I know people always talk about how Final Fantasy XIII is so much of them trying to remake Final Fantasy VII without them remaking Final Fantasy VII. Lightning is often called like female Cloud in one of the later games. Actually, in Lightning Returns, Final Fantasy XIII 3, you can get a Soldier First Class uniform for Lightning. Is how like blatant it is. But you want to know what's more interesting to me is not necessarily the Final Fantasy VII OG influence, but looking at the cinematics in this, the Final Fantasy VII Advent Children influence. There's so much influence of the animation that went into that movie that is so brilliantly like on display here in this trailer in a way that I don't think I ever noticed before. Especially with a lot of the angles and just the direction of the animation itself. Because especially that last scene where Lightning is using her firearm, it's so like just one for one almost. Intentionally or just on brand? maybe both. I do know that the development of Final Fantasy 13 had a lot of problems, and because this was on PlayStation 3, released in 2010, when the PlayStation 3 released in 2006, and part of the release for the PlayStation 3 was that they showed off a Final Fantasy VII tech demo where they recreated the opening scenes of Final Fantasy VII, but they weren't actually remaking the game. It was just to show off the power of the PlayStation 3. And people all the way back to Final Fantasy X, or is it 12? I think it was 12, actually. They did a video, like a news interview, essentially, on one of the people that was standing in line to get Final Fantasy 12. And the very first person in line walked up and got their copy, and the anchor walked over and was talking to them, and they're like, so what are your thoughts holding the new Final Fantasy game? And they hold up the game, and they're like, I really wish this was just a new Final Fantasy VII. So even before this game came out, people were already wanting a Final Fantasy VII remake. And then they had that 2005 tech demo, and people were like, oh, sweet, you're going to make it. Then they didn't. And then we don't know for sure whether they did or did not take that as we'll remake it as Final Fantasy 13, but they created the universe of the Nova Crystallis, which ended up being Final Fantasy 13, 2, 3. It was supposed to be Versus 13. It also had Type 0 in it, and I feel like there was one other thing that I'm forgetting. Then that was supposed to be kind of like a small collective universe that all these games were very loosely tied to one another, of course, except for the 13 trilogy, which are direct sequels of one another. This trailer is beautiful. And not just because Final Fantasy 13, visually at least, still holds up pretty damn well today. Square Enix, for the longest time, or even just Square, going all the way back to Squaresoft, they have, for such a long time, especially with the Final Fantasy series, been such a pedigree for quality. Now, there's some debate about whether around this time and forward, in terms of 13, 2, 3, and 15, whether that might have fallen off for one way or another, but even 15 is an absolutely beautiful game. Final Fantasy VII Remake is a beautiful game. Final Fantasy 16, with what we've seen of it, is a beautiful game, and it is interesting to see just how much still Final Fantasy 13 visually I could see this. And obviously, you know, this is 720p. It's probably been compressed all over the place. It was, you know, sent internationally. This doesn't even really look like 720p to me. It looks like a compressed 720p. And so, you know, if there was like a 1080 cut of this trailer, you could probably still try and pass this game off today. Obviously, they wouldn't think that it's a cutting-edge AAA big-budget title, but there are games that are AAA big-budget titles that look worse than this today on modern systems, on current-gen systems, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series S, PC, and this is a PlayStation 3 game. It's amazing what they managed to do back then. And I see why people were saying that this trailer is very hype. Now, I'll admit, this trailer got to me a little bit. I was holding some things, but that's also because I'm a very emotional person, and I know the game. If I didn't know the game and I was watching this, I'd be like, this looks freaking sweet. And I'm really glad that they took the time that they did in this trailer, because it allowed them to show off everything that they wanted to and everything that they could, because so many games trailers don't give you a strong enough sense of what you're looking at, of what you're getting into. They're either like hyper cinematic trailers, which again, there was parts of this that were very cinematic, but because they took 4.5 minutes, they were like, cool, we're going to do 2.5, like a 30-second lead in, 2 minutes of this really beautiful cuts and exposition without really giving away too much, and then we're going to do just a solid 60-second block of gameplay. You can't tell a whole lot from the gameplay, and the complaints that people have today about this game's gameplay, you would never really be able to tell are present within that gameplay trailer. And then they're like, all right, now we got, you know, another 30 seconds or a minute left to kind of close and wrap this up. They took the time they needed to give a really strong presentation. It's also got a really beautiful song to it. That song's gorgeous. I might get hit for copyright on it, but man, that's a beautiful song. Admittedly, I would have preferred they mixed the gameplay with the cinematics. Sure. And I think it's just more of a stylistic choice. I think if they had a different song, because I feel like the song in a way dictated the pacing of the trailer, and because the song has a build-up, they needed to change the way the trailer was presented, because they didn't start to present the gameplay until the song had started to reach its crescendo, and with the at least action-packed looking gameplay that they chose to use, it would have been difficult to slot that in earlier in the song when it's calmer and quieter. I also would have preferred the song to be a bit softer and not overlap with game conversation. Yeah, I can agree with that too. Audio mixing could have been better, or no lyrics. I think the lyrics were part of the message, though. But yeah, I could definitely understand and see that. But also, the game conversation didn't even give that much context. So you're like, all right, they're cool. But yeah, no, that was a good trailer, and I definitely had not seen that before. I am glad that I watched this, because I was hoping that this would do exactly what it did, and that would give me a sense of joy at going to replay this game again. And that's what it did. That's what it accomplished. But I will now pass the question off to you of what you thought of this trailer. If you want to share your thoughts on just the trailer, cool. If you want to share your thoughts on Final Fantasy XIII, like I said, I've already played through it 1.5 times at least. I say that because the first time I did not finish. Second time I did. And I don't think I've played it a third time. So coming into this future playthrough will be my third time. What are your thoughts on the trailer, on Final Fantasy XIII, on where this game stands today? Because Final Fantasy XIII is actually getting a resurgence right now in terms of respect, essentially, from the Final Fantasy and RPG community. It was lambasted when it came out, and people had such strong knee-jerk reactions because it wasn't what they thought it was, or wasn't what they wanted it to be, and I understand that. But now today, it seems like people have so much more appreciation for it, and it's interesting to see that so long after the game came out. It's been 12 years, as a dramatic way of phrasing that. Leave your thoughts down in the comments below. If you want to keep the conversation elsewhere, 2 great places to do so are Discord and Twitter. And speaking of Discord, we actually have a channel dedicated to these reactions where you can place links of your own that we can watch together live on stream, because we do stream 4 days a week, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday, and I hope to see you there. If you enjoyed this video, please leave it a like. If you want to catch future videos, please subscribe to the channel. We just have another one that we're going to go watch right now, so if you go watch one of the other videos on the channel, or if I see you in the live stream, thank you and enjoy.